Hi everyone, welcome to the Mayor's Table. September is National Preparedness Month. With me today on the Mayor's Table are guests from the San Juan County Office of Emergency Management. We're excited to have them here to talk about how you and your family can be prepared, communicate, and make sure that you, your neighbors, everybody in your network understands what to do when danger strikes. Hey everyone, welcome to the Mayor's Table. On today's episode, we have two of San Juan County's finest. San Juan County Emergency Manager Mike Mestas, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mayor.
And San Juan County's Public Information Officer Devin Neeley. Devin, have we had you on the show?
It's been a while. I think the last time we talked about the census in 2020.
All right, and Mike, it may have been
pre-COVID, right?
Well, during COVID, right?
Yeah.
During the craziness.
Yeah, you came to the Emergency Operations Center. We did the show in the center, and yeah.
I told myself I would make it through this episode and not talk about COVID. Oh. But here we are.
Here I am. I've spoiled it for you. Can I go now?
Well, it's September, so it is National Preparedness Month.
Yes.
We thought it'd be great to have a conversation with you guys because San Juan County Office of Emergency Management kind of heads up the conglomerate of government agencies and working on behalf of the people of the county when it comes to emergency management. And Mike, I think I told you this before the show. You're renowned all across the state for the great work that you do, and so we appreciate your efforts here very much. So thank you.
Well, I thank you. I think we have a strong program here in San Juan County because obviously my 23 years with the Farmington Fire Department, and then I was able to retire and then go into emergency management. So I feel that makes our program that much stronger, and that's the main reason why the years of experience.
Yeah.
They're hiring people in emergency management throughout the state that have come out of college or don't have much experience. So it just bodes true for San Juan County and the Tri-City area for our experience.
So 23 years with Farmington Fire. How long have you been in the emergency management position?
16 years, and I've been the emergency manager since 2016. The last emergency manager said, I'm going to retire, and then Gold King Mine happened. So we've had nothing but disaster emergencies, 13 disaster declarations since I've taken over.
Wow. So I'm glad that I've been here for all of those as well, Mike.
I know, maybe it's bad karma
maybe
between
it's us
both
together.
of us. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So, Mike, within the scope of what you do, what does the Office of Emergency Management do?
Well, the Office of Emergency Management was put in place after 9/11 because obviously after the terrorist attack at the Twin Towers, Homeland Security Presidential Directive Number 5 said you had to be ready in case of another disaster declaration, an emergency. So the Office of Emergency Management was placed here. The first ever emergency manager was Don Cooper. He did a great job in preparing our community, exercising, building the SWAT teams, the bomb teams, the hazardous material teams. So it did a lot for this community and turned over really a Cadillac system to me, and my job was just to keep it going.
Well, I love that. Thanks, Don, for all your work and making that foundation strong for us. So
yeah, I like to give him kudos because without him building that foundation, we wouldn't have the
much
program.
more difficult. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Devin Neeley, a man of wears many hats here in this community as well. What is your role with the Office of Emergency Management?
I act as the Public Information Officer for the Office of Emergency Management, and what that means is when I get a call from Mike Mestas, we've got to get information out on the street to the people through various channels, and that takes a lot of different forms, whether that's interface with media, whether that's social media, whether that's information on the website, just to make sure that people know the information, just like we're talking about preparedness, or working with our friends at the Dispatch Center at San Juan County Communications Authority to make sure that people get those emergent alerts and in whatever form they need to see those. So I work at Mike's call when he needs the information out. That's when I step in and do that sort of work.
So when people are talking about how do I receive communication on emergencies? What do you recommend from our office for folks?
The first place, believe it or not, is social media. So much information is shared in real time on social media, and what we're doing when we put that out is to get it in front of as many people as possible. If you like it and share it and comment on it, more people see it after that, and we increase our reach. So the social media page for the San Juan County Office of Emergency Management is a good place to start. After that, your normal media channels alerts will come over an EAS alert, an emergency alerting system on the radio and on TV if there's an emergency in your area. And after that, there's also some products through the San Juan County Communications Authority that you can sign up for and get emergency messages on your cell phone, in your email, via text message, however way you want to get those messages. And then above and beyond that, there's the iPause alerting, which is like an Amber Alert. And unless you turn it off, you are going to get all of those alerts. And that reaches a really high level when we would activate that system to warn the public about something.
I've been in those places when those iPause alerts have gone off, and it's been interesting to see, especially when there's a crowd around. Definitely get your attention.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to sign up for some of these other options to send text messages, for example, where do they need to go?
So that's through our partners at the San Juan County Communications Authority, and that's sjcounty911.net.
Okay.
And you can sign up for Everbridge Alerting. And what that does is that enrolls your location. You can put in maybe a home address and a work address, and that way alerts that you get are tailored to those locations. You can choose whether you want to get a voice, like a phone call, your phone to ring and the message to tell you what the emergency is, if you want to get a text message, or if you want to get an email. What's interesting, I have all three of those signed up on my phone, and when we hit those alerts, my phone just goes crazy. And they will keep calling you with the same message until you acknowledge that you have heard it.
Oh, wow.
So it's a really robust system, but is an opt-in system. But once again, you can tailor those alerts to where you are most frequently, at home or at work or somewhere else. So I live in Farmington, I work in Aztec, I have those two locations, and if we got an alert that hit either one of those locations, I know that I'd get it on my phone.
That's great information for folks.
Yeah, and that information is key, because dispatch will tell you that they want you to go to those locations first, because during an emergency, they're tied up and they're busy with first responders and on radio chatter, and they don't have time to be answering hundreds of calls. What's going on in our area? What's going on down the street? And they actually have Devin put stuff out. Ask people not to call 911. We know what's going on. This last storm in June was a big example of that, because people were calling, hey, we don't have power. Well, we know we don't have power. Please follow social media so you can be informed. So.
That is the one place that I tell folks, and I know there's some who don't want to be on social media, and certainly limiting your time on there, is crucial.
Sure.
It's healthy for you to limit your time, Mike. I don't know if you know that or not, but when it comes to actually being in the know of what's happening, getting on there and having, like you said, real-time access to information, I think is very, very important. And it's a free tool, something that everybody can have access to, as long as you have a computer or a smartphone.
So to that end, though, if you are one of those that isn't interested in having the social media, hopefully you can create some relationships with others who do have that as a resource,
right,
and you can give them a call. Use the phone, use the Alexander Graham Bell invention, and call those folks that may be able to look it up and find out for you, because like Mike mentioned, calling dispatch isn't going to help you get your power on any sooner. The fine folks at Farmington Electric Utility are likely already aware through a very robust system of reporting through people that call the utility. Calling dispatch isn't going to help.
Right.
Calling dispatch to ask why the power is out is not helping. In fact, that may be tying up a dispatcher that could be dispatching an emergent call and saving a life.
Right. And Farmington Utility has their own alert system, so if your power's out, go to their spot
on their Facebook page. Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and there's speaking of people who may not be on social media, I think it's for people who are watching here. If you do get alerts and you have family members who are elderly, making sure you take the time to check on them, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a preparedness tip.
Yeah.
Well, preparedness
the
goes all the
elderly.
way around. It's not just making sure that you have food and water, and we can touch on that a little bit more. It's making sure that you check on those around you, your neighbors, your relatives, and make sure that they have the preparedness as well. And sometimes they're at some sort of a disadvantage that you can help them with. So community is so big here, and preparedness needs to extend to our community and our friends and neighbors.
Sure. Speaking of storms, Mike, we had this big storm in June.
Yes.
And we have big storms on occasion. I remember when I first bought my house back in 2013, I think that September, we got hammered with a very big storm. But this one was interesting. This one snapped, poles, utility poles, and caused some pretty big chaos. But some of the things that we're talking about with Preparedness Month is natural disasters, and freak storms would be one of those.
Yeah, sure. On June 21st, and what was it, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock?
It was a Friday.
We were getting alerts from national weather saying storm in your area, and it's like we get those alerts all the time, but this one was one of those storms, what do they call it, the R500, 200-year storm, where we had a big rain event, and it was widespread through our county, all the way up to La Plata, to Cedar Hill, Shiprock, to Blanco, even down south to DZ. But the majority of the wind that came with this storm hit the Bloomfield Highway corridor and the West Hammond area, where it knocked down 15 to 19 power poles and just snapped them in half. And there's photos on Facebook. But kudos to the Farmington Electric Utility. We had power out anywhere from some areas from 24 to 72 hours, and those men worked around the clock. Kudos to Hank Adair for leading the charge with his men. We had people calling without power, their freezers, their refrigerators down. The windstorm blew roofs off and hail damage associated with it. National Weather told us that it was not an F2 tornado, but we had winds at 80 miles an hour. They called it a microburst, but we had people that said they saw a funnel cloud.
Right.
So yeah, one of those storms that were a 200, 500-year storm that came through here that devastated our area for just a short span, but widespread. But the major damage, like I said, it was on the Bloomfield Highway, West Hammond.
I did note that day.
area.
I was actually in Durango on that day, but I had seen earlier where you had posted multiple weather updates, which I think is great. We really, unfortunately, don't have a good radar system here in the Four Corners. There's a big void, and we've done some research to try and find, how do we fill that void? Which organizations would it take? And apparently it's not the federal government, it's others.
Well, so there is a new radar resource that's only recently come online up in La Plata County. And we're really hoping that additional data is going to help the forecasting. But yeah, frankly, I was at Smith's, I was shopping, and those weather alerts started coming in to me, and I go, uh-oh, better post these on Facebook. And so we started getting those out. Mike was already keeping an eye on the weather, and we saw this cell come in our direction. And sometimes those just dissipate and go away, and this one really didn't.
No, definitely did not. Yeah, McGee Park in that area, just torrential rain and all the rivers, and all the washes, they were all running.
Yeah, we gave a brief to the Congresswoman Ledger Fernandez this morning and showed her some slides and showed her the point to where the river rose within that 30-minute span a foot to our action level. The Animas River was at the same level it was during spring runoff, just for a short span.
Yeah.
That's how much water we got in just that little while. So it was eye-opening to her.
You mentioned the Congresswoman's visit, Mike, and within that, local natural disaster, so to speak, we got a declaration of emergency, correct?
Yes, we were fortunate to qualify. Fortunate, unfortunate that it happened.
Right.
But right after the disaster, we had a widespread area of governmental disaster damage, for lack of a better term. So Farmington Electric Utility, the county, McGee Park, So the city of Farmington had claims, and so did Bloomfield, Kirtland area, Aztec. So as the emergency manager for San Juan County, my job is to ensure that we can try to recoup some of the funds that we spent so that we don't bankrupt our county. And so asking for a disaster declaration to the state of New Mexico on behalf of the entire county was the purpose of the disaster declaration. But within that, we sought assistance for individual assistance for the public, who they were the ones that were really impacted during the emergency. But because of a threshold that we didn't meet for the individual assistance, it wasn't approved initially because we didn't meet a threshold. The great thing is a week later, we were notified that because of the Rio Doso fire, the flooding that continues up at Cass Canyon and San Miguel County, that they pulled us under the umbrella of the entire state, and a presidential declaration was encompassed within San Juan County to include citizens. So the citizens, FEMA was in our training room for a week in August, and citizens came. They talked to the claims adjusters. They were able to fill out applications for the citizens that were damaged during that period. And not only are we going to get governmental assistance, but individual assistance for our citizens for that storm as well.
Well, that's
so
great.
we were very fortunate.
Your office can help coordinate those types of efforts. You know, that's key. That's the one thing, and I'll bring up COVID again, but what the great job that your office did during that time, just trying to get resources to other parts of the county who weren't able to get resources from other places.
And I tell you, it takes a team, and you were on those calls every day, Mayor, and you were instrumental, you in the city of Farmington. It takes a team to do everything that we do in this county.
It definitely does.
And with all the agencies that work together and our drills and things that we do, I'm fortunate to have everybody as a team member because it makes my job. Makes me look good.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, just the way that all these, not just the local governments, but, you know, San Juan Regional Medical Center, San Juan College, the Chamber of Commerce, I mean, whatever, the way we all kind of work together and share information and take care of each other is key. And it speaks to our community as a whole. And when we talk about preparedness, as Devin had mentioned, it is so important that everybody understands the role that they play in emergencies, whether it's fire, flooding, strong winds, power outages, or other things. And here locally, beyond these kind of, you know, these summer storms that we're getting, there is, of course, the threat of wildfire. And that's something that we, in the insurance industry, are seeing come up a lot more frequently than in the past. And we have parts of our county now that are considered wildfire hazard areas where we don't have the tall trees per se. We've got the sagebrush, we've got, you know, smaller bushes, but that is an issue. And we have our own wildfire crew for the city of Farmington as well. Anything on wildfires in general, because people are getting information from their insurance companies about it. What are anything from your office?
And I'll let Devin expand on it. A lot of the wildfire risk, like you said, in places like Rio Doso and up in Las Vegas, the large trees, we don't have that problem around here, but we still have risk with the sagebrush, the dry brush, the grass, with the rain that we've been having. It'll dry out soon, and then we're really going to have some risk if people don't have defensible space.
That's
Fire
key.
department preaches defensible space around your home, pine needles on roofs and gutters, all that stuff's flammable, and if you don't keep an eye on that grass, tall grass mowed down around your home, then you're just leaving yourself out there. And if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, you know, we have so much beautiful area here, and the phrase is the urban wildland interface. Think about north of Pinion Hills Boulevard.
Right.
People living out in sort of the scrub oak and the pinyon juniper mix out there, and a real dry summer can dry some of that stuff out. A lot of it's standing dead already, and fires will jump through those real quickly. And you move somewhere. I just had to have a tree cut down in front of my house, and it's sickening to cut down a tree for any reason.
Right.
However, when you're looking at your property and you have these trees that pose a significant risk to your house, your belongings, and your life safety, it's worth considering making sure that you have that space around your house that's essentially clear cut.
Right.
That doesn't have a tree within 50 feet of the house, so that you don't have a fire that can jump from treetop to house.
Right.
There's a lot of groups that can help you with that. Fire departments, the city of Farmington and county both will inspect your property and point out areas that you can clean up. You know, it's really convenient to have that pile of wood right outside your back door, but if your house is shake shingle, that wood pile poses a significant threat. So there's a lot of tricks that you can do, and it's hard to cut down a tree right next to your house that provides shade in that front window. But if you're in the urban interface, those are some things to definitely look at.
No, great feedback on that. Absolutely. Power outages. You know, as a kid, growing up in Denver, we had a closet full of candles and flashlights, and so and the power, I remember as a kid, seemed to go out a couple times a year at least. It was always an exciting moment. Depending on the time of day. We're very fortunate here, and knock on wood, I mean, our Farmington Electric Utility has a 99% rate, of continued service, but there are times obviously when it goes down. And when we talk about preparedness for individuals in their homes, I mean, we've got a little, again, it's a closet, we've got a little kit, we've got things in there that make it easy, but what other things would you all recommend with power outages?
Well, the very first thing is, if you can put a generator on your house, that's absolutely a fabulous thing to have. Those are expensive.
Depending on what you buy.
Correct.
It could be very expensive, yeah.
Having a whole home system that's going to switch over automatically is very expensive. But you have that peace of mind that as long as the propane or the diesel holds out, that nothing's going to defrost in your freezer. You're going to be able to charge your phone, and you're going to be able to watch TV out of the air.
Right.
The next step down from that is maybe a generator that sits in the shed out back that you can drag out on wheels and run an extension cord to your fridge if you need to. You could plug in your phone and charge it if you needed to, and power some of the essentials. Outside of that, you hit the nail on the head. Candles, lamps, obviously please be safe with those. Those pose a significant fire threat.
Sure.
I think the insurance guy in you would probably recommend lanterns, electric lanterns.
I would go with that.
Electric candles, LED
Yes.
lamps, flashlights, things like that. And think outside the box. If you need to charge your phone and you don't have power in your house, go start the car.
Yeah.
Run the car for a little while, plug it in,
Not
charge
in the
your
garage.
phone. Not in the garage.
Yeah, don't do
Not
the
with
garage.
door closed.
Yes,
That's
take it out of the garage.
Yes.
But to that end, that's a really great point. When there were power outages at Aztec just a few weeks ago, we had some fire and EMS personnel who had to remember how to open the garage door to get out of the bay because those bays aren't backed up. And wait a second, is that the rope you pull? So think about those things too. We rely on the power for everything. You walk in and hit the button, and if the button doesn't work, how do you get the garage door open?
Right.
So preparedness is not just having the equipment like the generator, like a battery backup, like the candles and lights, but how do I survive without that power? When it comes to a fridge or a freezer, don't open it. Don't open it. They typically will hold their temperature for 10 to 12 hours as long as you're not opening it and letting everything warm up. So the light isn't going to come on. Maybe you have an option in the cabinet, in the cupboard that you could eat instead if you're hungry, but leave the fridge and the freezer closed, and with no intervention from you, your food is going to remain safe. Now, when we get into 24 and 48 hours, there are other considerations, but
And that's where I kick in.
Yeah.
My
Yes.
disaster preparedness mind, because I want the public to know that if it's a life safety issue, if it's in the heat of the summer, we have evacuation locations such as McGee Park. It's our major evacuation shelter or evacuation location. If it's a life safety hazard, we can do a cooling shelter out there with the Red Cross. If need be, we can do an overnight shelter. But there again, that brings back other issues about pets, and if you want to leave your home, and can you have a relative that you can go stay with? So things like that. But back to power outage, flashlights. That's where that preparedness kit comes into mind, and having that type of stuff available. Be ready.
Yeah. Well, and so this also goes to personally. If you are on oxygen, you rely on an oxygen concentrator. You may have some backup bottles if the power is out, but after that, what's your contingency plan? And I know that at a certain point, it is worth calling 911 to get some assistance. My question is maybe CPAP machine. I don't know where that falls on that. If you use a CPAP machine and you can't sleep well without it, that's probably not necessarily a medical emergency, but if you're more comfortable, it might be time to invest in some sort of a battery backup if that is the case.
No, I think that's really critical. And you mentioned earlier, it's not just about having the kit, which for people who are looking for a quick checklist. What should I have? What should I do? There's plenty of information online. We use ready.gov. Is that the correct space for it? Basic disaster supply kit information is listed there, water, food, battery-powered or hand-cranked radio, flashlights, first aid kits, extra batteries, many of those things. But the other part is also taking the time to go through and maybe bring your family together to say, look, we're going to do a drill. And we're gonna practice these things in case they do happen so that we're not fumbling through as we go. I think of Ben Stiller and Royal Tenenbaums with him and his kids. We got a stopwatch and we got to get out of the house. But that's important. We have a 2-story home. I've purchased a ladder that can be thrown out and hooked on the 2nd-story window, so my kids could get out. How do you use that? And how quickly can I get to it? Am I going to remember that it's there if I've never done it before? In my house, we've got multiple fire extinguishers, but if you don't test those fire extinguishers to make sure that they actually still have pressure in them, many times you will find that they don't have pressure anymore, especially if you've had them in the house for 20 years. I don't know what the lifespan is on that pressure.
I think I have one too.
Yeah,
it's been there a long time.
It's been there a long time. You got to test those things, and you need to let your kids test them and know how to use them. That way they feel comfortable in those situations, because staying calm in a critical situation is priority number one. Stay calm, know what to do. So practicing how to open the garage door using the cord. Those are just great examples of what we're talking about.
And one of the things that you and I talked about prior to coming here is medications. Don't forget to put your medications, diabetic medications, things like that. And then don't forget your automobile. Not only have a safety 24-hour kit in your home, but in your automobile if you get stuck or you're needed flat tire, you can't get to where you need to go.
Well, and so many of us have a camper too. If you're out in the woods, you need all of those supplies. But then if the power goes out and it's too hot in your house, well, you got a generator in the camper, don't you? And you got all those supplies in the camper, don't you? That's probably a good place to hang out for a while until the power comes back on.
Or you want to get away from the wife?
Where you want to get away from the wife?
Go watch football?
Well, yeah. Sometimes you need a man space. But, well, speaking of generators, I want to make sure I point this out because I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day who'd pulled his generator out to take it camping, and it didn't work. And it's one of those situations where maybe you don't know small engines and how to go through and fix those kind of things. But if you test those regularly, again, pull it out, plug it in, start it up, change the oil out of it, put new gas in it. All those things are going to help make sure that when you need it, it's available.
And this is just one of those things that when twice a year, when the time changes, the fire department recommends what? Check your smoke detectors. Check the batteries, check the date on them. Some of them don't have replaceable batteries and have to be thrown away after 10 years, and you're not going to know unless you check. My other rule of thumb is during the time change, you flip your mattress if it's a flippable mattress, and maybe what we need to do is add to that the rest of our emergency kit. Is the are the bandages still viable, or have they been sitting in the sun and the heat and they're no good anymore in your first aid kit, and it's time to replace those? And twice a year is a pretty reasonable time frame to check on all of those things. Run the generator, get some fresh gas in it, make sure it's got gas stabilizer in it if you're going to store it full.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those tricks. Thinking through these things on a blue sky day is going to help you on a dark sky day.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good saying. Good job.
You could
Did
tell
you
it's
come
a
up with that
PIO.
yourself?
That one's on the house for
All
you.
right, perfect. We're going
Wow.
to trademark that. San Juan County Emergency Management Office. Blue Sky Day.
Yeah.
No, those are great points. And depending on the time of year, obviously, there's different, you'd have different situations you have to deal with. If it's cold outside, now we need to make sure that we've got a warm blanket for everybody. And think about your pets. I've got pets. Want to make sure that they're taken care of in those situations. But my biggest concern is the point if we lose the ability for phone, cellular connection, Wi-Fi, or all your batteries drain. Where are we at? We're cavemen at that point.
Yeah.
And having caveman supplies around 1985, we'll just think that. You got to have that ability and know-how. I think the know-how is the other really important part of it.
Know how to survive.
You just got to know how, and it really wasn't that long ago that we all did know how, but the world has changed now that we've become so reliant upon electronics and that type of communication.
Yeah, for sure.
What are the things on preparedness in your homes, autos, travel? Always
Work, I guess.
work. Where your office is your office going through the process of working through drills for emergencies, and your schools. Obviously, the schools they do a lot of preparedness when it comes to emergency situations. We do once a year. We have through your office, Mike. We run a big drill, and maybe you talk about the last one that we completed.
Last year we did a full blown active shooter drill at the college, getting the college prepared for what if. This year we're doing a technical rescue drill out at the old power plant because they're letting us use their facilities. But we're trying to prepare our technical teams, our SWAT teams, or our bomb teams for the use of their equipment and things like that. Going back to the schools, I have a safe school committee within the Office of Emergency Management where we're trying to keep them prepared in drills and lockdown drills and things like that, along with fire drills. It's just all the theme. Be prepared is not only September, but year round.
And you never know where you need to be prepared at, which is why you need to have that kind of multifaceted, multi-location mentality of know what to do when you're in one place or the other.
And that's why I preach to my wife and my kids. It's like situation awareness. Be aware of your surroundings. You got to be prepared for anything.
Yes.
In today's world. So.
Yeah. Devin.
Find emergency exits around you, wherever you are. I mean, I had a conversation with a coworker the other day. Do you know where the emergency exits are at Smith's? Do you know where the emergency exits are at Target? This person had never really considered that. Lots of, I assume. Preparedness is not just candles and first aid kits.
Sure.
It's if your house caught fire, does everybody know where you're going to meet up together and make sure that everybody's out? There's an example I use with members of the family who may or may not be, who may be nonverbal or have a secret hiding place that they go to when they're stressed. Do you know where that is? Can you convey that to first responders so that they can go and find that person that may be hiding and not able to communicate and call out for help? Everybody has a unique situation, and you know best how to take care of you and your family. Unfortunately, the government, the fire department, the police department isn't always going to be there to help you.
Right.
It'll take a few minutes for the police department to get there. It'll take a few minutes for the fire department to get there. In these flooding events, things like that, unfortunately, the government isn't going to come in and fix your house for you. It's illegal, frankly. The first part of that is it is illegal by state constitution for city or county or state government to fix it. unless it's public infrastructure. So you have to be able to take care of yourself and your family for, I'd say, probably 24 to 48 hours before there's major help coming. And sometimes what that is evacuation to somewhere else.
Sure. That's interesting. I mentioned, bought my house in 2013. We had the big rain events, and my house flooded. And I remember calling the fire department because they were down the street. So I called in dispatch and I said, hey, is there any chance they'd be able to come up here and help me pump this water out from my yard and my house? And of course the answer was, we're sorry. Because if we do that for you, we've got to be able to do that for everybody. And the anti-donation clause here in the state of New Mexico prohibits those types of activities, which understandable, but in moments you're like, oh, you really use them right now. But those pumps on that fire truck really work well.
When it's life safety, when it is saving someone from a burning building, or pulling a person out of a vehicle that's been flooded and is being washed down the arroyo.
Right. Different.
That's a very different situation than, hey, my car won't start. Will you tow me to AutoZone?
Yeah.
So
come and pump out my swimming pool for me.
You're right.
Yeah. Self-reliance is so important. I think our grandparents, you hit this on the head a minute ago, our grandparents were very well self-reliant. Our great-grandparents, maybe during the Great Depression, they learned all of those things. And we are lucky that we haven't had to be that way. We didn't have to grow victory gardens to provide our families with food because of rationing or whatever that may be. And I'm guilty of it too. I am not sure how long I would last in an emergency, because frankly, as long as I can get to work, yeah, exactly. If I can get to work, I'm going to be working, and they'll feed me, and I'm sure there's a bathroom somewhere, and it'll be fine. But unfortunately, we have to breed this culture of self-reliance, and well, maybe fortunately. I think it's probably better for all of us.
It is better for all of us. I mean, knowing what to do and how to do it, and actually within my network of people, knowing people who really know how to do it, that I could rely on. And well, I don't know, I'd have to get on a bike and find some of them if I couldn't use my car or something to that effect. But using their knowledge as well. I mean, in my situation, I know a lot of firefighters. I'm like, Mike, you, Devin, I have the ability to reach out and ask questions and get those questions answered and given some reassurances and know, Nate, here's the priority of what you should do. And a lot of that information is online as well for folks. But the real key is to take that information and do something with it. Just picturing myself sitting down with my family, again, and saying, okay, let's make sure we go through these scenarios and talk about it. That's what I think is really, going to my mom and talk to my mom. Here's what you can expect and how we're going to react in these situations. I think that's the most most important thing, besides having the supplies and needs ready to go. The thing is, supplies. I've gone out in the past and checked your batteries that you have for your flashlights. Make sure if you have portable batteries for your phones, keep them charged. Simple things that you can do just on a regular basis, and to make sure you're taking care of that part of it.
And when you have those conversations with your family, with your mom, one of the most valuable answers is, I don't know. Let's figure out what we would do. Let's make a plan, because you don't have to know when you sit down. You have to have a plan when you get up from that table in that conversation.
Great reminders.
Good point.
Yeah.
And what's that website? Ready.gov?
Ready.gov has a lot of information.
Tips.
Ready.gov and FEMA are really fascinating as a public information professional. They did a campaign a few years ago, and they encouraged people in the month of October to build a zombie apocalypse readiness kit. And it just so happened that all of those things they recommended you have, that was a readiness kit for any old emergency. So, frame it in that. What would you do in World War Z, and what do you need to have to survive in one of those worlds?
Well, that's a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe for the first 48 hours, and then go from there.
No, that's a great point. Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate it. This has been very insightful. Mike, anything you want to add to it?
No, I just thank you for the opportunity of being here and speaking with you again, and to inform the public about Preparedness Month, and just thank you for all your continued support to my office.
Absolutely.
You've always been there for me.
Yeah, and we'll continue to be, Devin.
Again, we thank you for this opportunity, And I hope that people understand that when the rains and the floods come, there are a lot of people working behind the scenes to mitigate those disasters. There's a lot of work beforehand, during, and after. And the folks at Emergency Management, City of Farmington, San Juan County, the other municipalities, they all do a very good job, and they all work very hard in the interest of the public.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being here and for all you do to help keep us safe and in the know. I just encourage folks who are watching here, Mike, if they were going to get involved, if people wanted to learn more per se, do we have any type of trainings or anything that are put on here locally where they could go and get, hands-on training?
There are some CERT groups around the area, and those are good groups to be a part of. But I don't know that there's anything specifically.
So let me speak a little bit about CERT if we got still some time. So we did back in the day perform some CERT training, and CERT is the acronym for Citizens Emergency Response Teams.
That makes sense.
But Don Cooper changed the acronym to training, and we did some training to some citizens, some groups, and then we built these CERT teams in the county, and then the people weren't being used after we built them, and then if you don't use them, they'll go away.
Right.
So when I took over, I tried to change it up, and I wanted to do CERT training for various groups within San Juan County. So we started off with training county employees, and the thought there was, let's train county employees in each department so that somebody can be the voice of reason during an emergency. Hey, in finance, you're the person that can say, what do we do during an active shooter? There's a fire, where's our exits? So that we have a person in each department. And then we expanded it to the City of Farmington. Ryan Briggs is going to lead that up for us, and the employees at the City of Farmington. And then I wanted to take it another step further. So Randy Velarde at Aztec ROTC is teaching Teen CERT to junior ROTC kids at Aztec High School.
Okay.
So he's reaching the teen groups, and this will be his second year of doing that. Tibbetts Middle School, Derek Rang, a former firefighter that worked with me, he's doing Teen CERT in his science program, the last semester of science at the middle school. So we're teaching teens to be prepared at those levels, branching out to the 4-H kids this spring. And then I'm not forgetting our partners in San Juan County that are on the reservation. We're doing a CERT training for the chapter houses, starting with Sonosti Chapter House in October. So that's the type of CERT training that we're doing. And then I want to try to get to the point where we're doing a CERT training for our faith-based community, so our churches are prepared as well. And so it just takes time with small office and trying to get funding and things like that. But if there's a need, and I think there was on Facebook, somebody did reach out about some training, so maybe we just need to look at that and host another training at Fire Ops for the citizens at large.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I just know people will have those questions, and you mentioned the faith-based community. I was actually thinking about churches and how they handle situations, and also that's a really tight-knit network of people in most cases who, with that communication there at church, they'll help transcend into the workplace, into the home, and so.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Great information. Well, I guess we'll wrap it. Well, thank you all for joining us here. We hope you found this information extremely useful. Please put it to work. Don't just sit on it. Go on to ready.gov, look at the information that's been provided there, and then communicate that information. Talk about it with your family, with your friends, with your church, with the people at your office. Make sure that everybody's on the same page when bad things happen, and we don't want them to happen, but it's guaranteed at some point something new, a curveball is going to be thrown. So we got to know how to hit that curveball when it comes. So thank you all for joining us here today. Devin, Mike, we'll see you here again, I'm sure, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Mayor's Table. Until then, take care.